good that wages are going up. It's good that inflation is coming down. Those are all good things. But if they don't do something about the cost of housing, then it's none of that's going to matter. And people are going to just keep falling further and further behind. Because if you have like a 30% jump in your housing costs, and at the same time you had, your wages went up and the cost of everything else went up, but then the cost, the cost of groceries and everything starts trending downward, but your rent or your mortgage is still up here, then you're just getting eaten alive and you can't make it to the end of the month. And then you don't have the same buy-in that you had with that social contract that you had before. So I think that's and also nobody in Washington really talks about it.
Well, there's a reason.
We know why.
There's a reason.
Yeah. And what the Fed is doing, raising interest rates, slows housing construction and makes housing more expensive. So if they could raise it enough and they smash the economy, then okay, you'd get a housing crash. But that's not exactly what you want. It's like bleeding George Washington, to try to solve whatever problem he has, and you end up bleeding him to death. So even the policy approaches that they're taking are running 180 degrees in the wrong direction. We need massive amounts of subsidized social housing.
Yep.
And uncork as much housing as possible and make it dense so it's climate friendly and all that. But we're just not doing it.
Right. We know why.
Yeah.
So
we have a suspicion.
So I happen to work in commercial real estate, and there is no question that when it comes to the major issues of our day, that's not to say that we should ever downplay issues like abortion, gun rights, things like that. There is no question that the deregulation that started under Reagan, that got exacerbated to the 10th degree by Clinton, it exceeded all expectations, especially from a foreign policy perspective with Bush. And then we were on cruise control, if not even worse, with Obama, and hence we get somebody like Trump. Private equity firms, in the grand scheme of how money moves in society, is perhaps the biggest impediment to any success, because deregulation has permitted these mega giants to take over the economy. And that is exactly what's happened.
They're going to own all the houses. They're going to own all the houses. They're creating a serf class of people that will not be able to, and it's not like rents are cheap.
No,
it's not like, you can't afford to buy, so you can afford to rent. Not necessarily.
I work in multifamily, and I can tell you that with these loans that are maturing within the next couple of months, especially the mega properties, the ones that you'll see in Silver Spring or in Tyson's Corner and places like that, where you have 400, 500 units, all commuting zones directly off the DC Metro into the city. These are all owned by the likes of Vanguard and BlackRock. These are not, syndication organizations that are, entrepreneurs trying to, build for a strong retirement and things like that. These are completely unregulated industry. I will not, under any circumstances, do business with the likes of BlackRock or Vanguard. But you know who they do business with? The United States Congress. And they buy them off like nobody's business. And this, more than anything else, and this is why I know that this really is the key issue on Capitol Hill, because nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
This is considered the third rail. This is like we do not talk about private equity on Capitol Hill. And I was thinking about this the other day. I'm curious if you think I'm right. As the Fed continues to increase interest rates, that means that for a regular person, let's say that you have somehow managed to put together enough money for a down payment, which is getting increasingly impossible as well, because you're talking now $200,000 or $100,000 for a down payment. Let's say you've done that. Now you're showing up and bidding for this house against these private equity companies. The private equity companies are just coming in with cash, so they don't care kind of what the Fed says, what the bank says the mortgage rate is. Mortgage rates are 7% or whatever plus now. That just makes it that much harder than if you're paying 7% for your money that you're putting down on a house, and Vanguard over here is just sitting on trillions of dollars of capital
seems like it's impossible then for regular people to compete. So then that buyer just ends up having to rent eventually from Vanguard, which can then set prices.
If we stay on the trajectory that we are on
Scary.
right now, at this moment in time, if we stay on this trajectory for the next 7 years, Vanguard and BlackRock will own over 60% of the single family homes in this country.
Yeah.
If you can't see the cataclysmic cliff we're heading towards economically in this country, if you think China owns our ass now, you haven't seen anything yet, because people are never going to be able to build generational wealth. And there is nobody in the halls of Congress right now, much less somebody like our representative, who's emblematic of the worst of what Congress has to, represent. It's not. Wasserman Schultz is just a she's a manifestation of the worst of what Capitol Hill represents, because there are tons of people like her that are there that are just like, line my pockets with whatever corporate money you got. I don't care. I want the career. The rest of the people be damned. And as far as I can see, when it comes to private equity, they are equal opportunists, baby. They give basically the equal amount to the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. They do not discriminate whatsoever. Whoever's got their hand out and is willing to look the other way when it comes to regulating the banking system, which in turn is how private equity is able to continue manipulating the system. It doesn't matter if Joe or Trump is in the White House. We're screwed either way. It's just a question of how quickly you're willing to see it. Yeah. And that, to me, if there is a lesson to be learned and what hopefully can be evolved when it comes to the likes of AOC or the likes of Bernie Sanders, but more so AOC, because Bernie's had his day. Bernie set the precedent. He's done his job. Now it's a question of what we can do going forward. If they're not willing to stand up to the likes of the Vanguards and the BlackRocks of the world, it doesn't matter what else they do.
Yeah, I think you really have to do it. You have to start now, because if you let them get to a place where they own 60%, then you're also stuck in this too big to fail situation where, let's say you did get Jamal Bowman becomes president, and he's like, I'm banning this, no more single family homes owned by private equity, Vanguard, BlackRock, you're out of this business. They're like, oh, well, guess what? We own every single pension fund. We're every pension fund in the world. You do this to us, nobody has a retirement anymore. Like they would have the too big to fail chokehold over and be able to scare people if you let them get to that place. So you've gotta stop them now and start rolling it back, because like it'll be just so impossible. I never want to say impossible. It's so hard to dislodge them once they're in there. I mean, you know this industry better than me, but you see the dilemma that I'm talking about. That once they're in, they can fearmonger that, well, you're going to lose your 401k, you're going to lose your pension if Jamal Bowman, this radical communist, has his way.
So why is RFK the only person running for president who was even talking about this? It shouldn't be somebody who, for a lot of people, is considered a non-starter as a candidate because of the whole vaccine hysteria. The fact that he was on live camera saying that BlackRock is destroying this country, and he's the only person who's saying it.
He's the only person saying a few things.
They're
important things. But it's important things.
So here would be a good example of something that I wish Alex and the rest of them would do. If RFK, even if you don't support him, makes a statement like this, say, listen, I'm not supporting the guy, but he's absolutely right on this issue, and we have to be talking about it. They can't. Do they have a gag order of some
Yes, I bet you they do. I honestly, they're here to speak on behalf of a candidate. Their job, they're first of all trying to pretend there's not even a primary. They've been instructed that they are not to mention other people that are running in that primary, not give it any attention whatsoever. There is no doubt in my mind that they've been told that.
I also think the fact that Bobby is saying it is even more potent because he comes from the highest class level in our society. So if somebody like him is saying it, you should be listening. Even if you don't want to support the guy, it should translate into, well, I'm going to support Joe, but Bobby's right about this, and Joe should be talking about this.
Right.
Like, that's the translation that should be happening. And we're not seeing
They're not holding him accountable.
They're not. And that's the danger, because if you don't hold him accountable, you're totally going to get me in 2015.
Oh, no, I know that's what's going to happen.
I'll totally win from prison. When people say that he can't win from prison,
oh, yes, he can.
Society is so falling apart right now that I wouldn't put anything past anybody.
I don't see Joe Biden.
It'd be a jump ball from prison. Yeah.
Hey, look, the fact that Eugene Debs got like 2 million votes from prison back in the teens. I mean, think about how much society's changed today.
I don't see any universe wherein Joe can win again. I just don't. I don't see. He barely won the first time, and I just don't see it. Things are not good.
Do you think that they should be in panic mode at this point? Not just with the poll numbers that Cornell is getting, but just the fact that every poll over the last month
has
consistently shown Trump with a slight edge. And as well as anybody, there is a silent Trump vote.
Oh, yes.
There is not a silent Biden vote.
Right.
That's dangerous, especially in states like
this. No, I do think they need to be extremely nervous. I think they need to take people seriously also when people say that they think he's too old. Like people, you see that in polls, and you hear people saying like, they're just saying that. They're still like, no, people really mean that, because he's super old. Yeah. Now, most of those are going to vote for him anyway, if it's a binary choice, although some are going to obviously vote for Cornel West. But yeah, I think that they should have had an actual primary, and that it was reckless for him to run for re-election. He's really rolling the dice with his own health. Like, how do we know he doesn't have an incident between now and the next year? The case for optimism and why Democrats are confident and why they went with it is that Trump was beaten by 3 million votes in 2016, even though he won. Then he was rinsed in 2018. He's beaten again in 2020, and he was very much on the ballot kind of in 2022. And though the Republicans won the House, they underperformed, and Democrats won the Senate. So the Democrats look back at that, and they're like, also, it doesn't require them then to offer anything. Like, we are the party that's not Trump. And now they also can run saying that they're, that abortion rights, they're going to codify Roe. So that's why they're so confident, when everyone else looks at it and is like, how on earth, why are you guys confident? This looks insane. This looks really bad.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.